Welcome back to the JCPod, partner with Stare Down Sports. Stare Down Greatness. Back here again with another breakdown, and I decided we will go with the AFC and we'll bounce back and forth a little bit. So we got an AFC breakdown today for you. Part 1, which will be the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. And then next week we'll go back to the NFC, and then Thursday obviously we'll have Patriots and Bills. But before we jump into all that, we got a little bit of NFL news to talk about. Some kind of crazy stories, some other stuff that's not super major, but just might be nice to have in the back pocket for later. And then, we'll go over the breakdowns. But before we get to the breakdowns, for those of you new, this is how it's going to go. We got new player additions, new coaching additions, some of the players and coaches that left, go through the schedule, kind of give my reaction to the schedule, what I think their season win total will end up being around, and then just kind of give out some futures, and then also just kind of talk about my expectations for the team and how I kind of expect the season to go for them. So let's hop into some NFL news before we start all that fun stuff. So the first thing to talk about is the NFL draft for 2027, which you want to talk about stuff that's way far ahead and super far away. The 2027 draft will take place from April 29th to May 1st in Washington, D.C. We won't be talking about the 2027 NFL draft now for a couple months because we still even have a season to play. Terrion Arnold, it seems like he did end up getting charged on Thursday for leading a plot to detain and pistol whip 3 people whom he believes stole luxury goods and $100,000 in cash from him. So basically, for those of you who weren't here last week or kind of are out of the dark of this story, so basically what it kind of sounds like is Terrion Arnold got robbed, and instead of... He reported to the police, obviously, but it was one of those situations where he wanted to get revenge himself, so he kind of... This is what it sounds like, basically, from the investigation. And the Lions have already released him, which kind of goes to tell you, like, okay, so it is starting to get pretty messy if the Lions are already like, yep, we'll release him. So it makes you think that, like, okay, some of this stuff he probably did might be true, but basically, he got his jewelry robbed and everything. He basically paid 3 other people to do it. All this stuff happened. They came, and yada, yada, yada. Down the line, goes down the line, goes down the line, goes down the line. Eventually comes, these guys basically flip on him in jail, give the police Terrion Arnold's information, all that, on what his involvement in the case, and now that is what is going on currently. It's just crazy, man, because, dude, man, it's just, man. From the football side of it, you worked your whole life, busted your ass your whole life, super, super talented, like 0.01% of the athletes that get to make it to college, 0.01% of the athletes that get to play at D1, 0.01 that gets to play at a school like Alabama, and then, yeah, at 23 years old, your career is completely derailed because of basically kind of a dumbass decision, honestly, and it's crazy. We see it every year. We probably won't stop seeing it. He's a young guy. I mean, young guys make dumb mistakes all the time. It just sucks that he decided to make a mistake that's going to be super detrimental for his career, it potentially sounds like. And yeah, we'll go into a little bit more detail about it, but this was like kind of originated 4 days ago, and then I got another article here in a little bit that will continue on with this, and it will kind of go over basically just adding on to what we just talked about, and then a couple new things have popped up from the case. So Caleb Williams, we talked about this a couple months ago. He put an application for the Iceman trademark. Apparently that's been refused as of right now. I think it's a made decision due to similarity and likelihood of confusion in a trademark filed in 1988, by Lacrosse Footwear for insulated boots. So that is where that is getting held up at currently. If you remember, there's also some interesting stuff when it came to George Gervin as well. So we'll just have to see if anything comes from that. As of right now, though, doesn't sound like anything will. Apparently, the parents of former All-Pro, running back Doug Martin, say excessive force by police and delayed medical care led to his death last year, according to a wrongful death lawsuit that's been going on. And the lawsuit filed Tuesday in federal court. Okay, so this, I won't lie. I thought this was something that was like kind of, they were saying, I misread this. So I thought this was something that they said like for sure happened and led to it. This is something that they're alleging. So this is all being alleged as of right now. So in the Doug Martin case, so this lawsuit in federal court that was filed Tuesday, it says their son was experiencing a mental health crisis in October. When responding, Oakland police officers held him face down with one or more officers pressed on his back. And they said that was a substantial factor in causing his death. Yeah, like I said, I completely misread this. Police said in a statement at the time of Martin's death that he was involved in a break-in and that a brief struggle happened as police were trying to detain him and he became unresponsive. The department did not release any other details. So it makes you wonder if he was on something potentially, or I'm not saying he was or wasn't, but obviously there's not been a whole lot that's been released about this. Apparently, and then to go on with the story, Leslie Martin called the paramedics for help. The lawsuit says that responding police officers found Doug Martin hiding in a neighbor's home after physically restraining him face down after a brief struggle. The complaint alleges that he was later turned onto his side and unresponsive. Says officers initially thought he was sleeping or pretending to be. They only requested medical assistance after he remained unresponsive. The lawsuit says. And that is the part I wanted to read because that's going to become massive. Because basically, this is going to come down to like, were they being negligent in their duties, or was it not? Or was it just simply like a fact of like, hey, stuff just happened and he ended up passing away from an absolute freak accident? Either way, it's just a really, really sad thing in general. And it really, really it just sucks for both sides, honestly. Because police officers are always, I mean, they're putting tough decisions, or tough decisions, I guess, every single day, and then to get put in a situation like this, and it's a high. I mean, even if it was somebody who wasn't as high pronounced name, I mean, it's cases like these are starting to become really, really loud all the time. So it's just sad, man. Absolutely sad. I'll admit, and this is kind of a side note. I've been lately just on a binge of watching dash cam videos and stuff like that, and I'll admit it's helped me understand a lot more of like, oh, so officers deal with some like, and this is not. I'm not saying everybody acts like this, but there's some absolute just jackasses out there that police officers have to deal with and everything. So you see videos like that all of a sudden, and I'm not comparing it to this situation at all. By the way, this is just something that has made me think a lot more lately. And as you just look at that and you're like, okay, so I kind of understand a little bit more why they're always hesitant, like not always hesitant, but you can see like some hesitancy when it comes to like being super friendly. I guess it's not even the best way to say it either, to be honest. But basically, to sum it up and not go super long, I kind of understand a little bit more the police officer side of it. But at the same time, just like in any workplace or any place in general, there are going to be people who bend the rules and everything. But that's not about football. So I'm not going to jump into those waters because those are waters that you can swim in circles for hours for. But either way, I'm curious to see what ends up coming from this lawsuit when it comes to the Doug Martin case, because that was just kind of like a shocker story last year where it's just like, wait, whoa, he just passed away? Because literally he was just in the NFL a couple years ago, and he's only 36 years old. Just sucks, man. Just an absolutely horrible situation all around. Speaking of horrible situations, not nearly doesn't have to do with life or death, but not a good situation. The CFL is not allowing teams to sign Brandon Sorsby in 2026. So basically, they're saying to uphold the integrity of their league and ensure fair competition are paramount in the CFL. They are not doing so, which makes sense. So basically, everything points to like year long. And it also sounds like if he did go to the NFL, he might have been suspended for a year. So either way, it basically sounds like he's getting a year-long suspension, and then he gets to come back in 2027 and potentially gets to play football, potentially doesn't. You would think that he might at least go to the CFL next year after he serves his year-long suspension. But we're just gonna have to see, man, because I'm just curious how this situation is going because it's the off season, so obviously it's really loud right now. I'm curious if this is a situation where we're gonna hear a lot more about this, like as the off season goes on, and then all of a sudden football season starts and we get to see real action again, and then it's just all dead and quiet until we get way later into the season when it's about time for the nonsense of the off season again. Josh Allen came out and said DJ Moore is gonna be a big, huge help to the Bills. I'm curious in general to see if he's gonna be because he didn't have the best of years last year, and if you think about it, he is a little bit older now. I don't want to say there's been a steady decline, but you look at his numbers, there is some stuff to worry about a little bit, but maybe this is a change of scenery he needs. He does return with Joe Brady, and he's going to be a big part of that offense. It's just those last couple of years with the Bears, like the last two specifically, it's kind of like, especially last year, it's just kind of like, I don't want to say losing a step because I'm not talking about speed per se, but just in general, it's like, you just look at it kind of like, little weird. Little weird. I like to. I could be totally wrong, and maybe it's a situation where the Bears had so many weapons they didn't really need to use them. But I'm intrigued by the DJ Moore signing for the Bills, which we'll talk about Thursday. Honestly, I don't think it's gonna be, and I'm not saying it's gonna be horrible. I don't think it's. I think I'm sitting in the camp of I don't think it's gonna be as great as a lot of Bills fans and maybe even the team hopes it's gonna be, but I think it's gonna be solid. And maybe that's also me just thinking about it a little bit too much from the fantasy mindset. And I'm just trying to think about numbers too much. Maybe there's other ways outside of just the straight up numbers he'll be able to affect the team and be super effective. But I'll admit, I might be I might be a little fantasy biased because I haven't doing a lot of deep diving since it's about that time as well. Brandon Ayuk blames his former agent for the feud. Says he'll never go back to the 49ers. He said that agent really started the whole shit because. Alright, there is some language, so I do apologize ahead of time. But the agent really started this whole shit because I fired his ass. But he want to text my wife because he's smart. Ayuk said, "Don't ever text my wife. Your ass fired. We is not cool. We won't be cool, and I will never be stepping into that building." Ayuk said, it's basically said that he'll play. He'll go sign with the Commanders as well as immediately after he's released. Ayuk also said the Lynch showed up to his house uninvited, alleged that the general manager came to apologize for head coach Kyle Shanahan's actions. There just sounds like there was a. I mean, apparently this was 3.5 minute. This was apparently a 3.5 minute video that he came out with, and this was 2 days ago. I mean, to be fair, that at the beginning of his career with the 49ers, I think I wasn't alone. There's a lot of us that are kind of wondering, like, why is this guy a doghouse? What is going on with him? He's a really talented guy, and they are just not letting him play. And I'll admit, at this point, maybe he was blocking, maybe he wasn't fully reading the playbook. I'll admit, at this point, it's been so long that I genuinely forget what it was. But you look back at it now, and it's just wild to think of his ride just with the 49ers, because it started off with that. He ends up becoming a star for them, playing really well. They signed him to a new deal, and then it just has completely fallen apart since. He's super, super talented. He's made it kind of clear he only wants to play for the Commanders, and at this point, the 49ers kind of hold his rights. I don't know what they're going to do. Because at a certain point, you just want to maybe release a guy, because I don't think they're going to get any value at this point for Brandon Ayuk just because of how loud he is about the situation, and just in general, I don't think any team's going to trade for him. Yeah, I don't know at this point with the Ayuk situation. If it was me personally, I mean, I don't know. I was about to say I would just probably release him at this point because maybe it's not worth all the hassle and everything. But at that point, that also sets a precedent where maybe some other players will be like, hey, well, if I don't want to get my way, I can just be loud and kind of do what Ayuk did, and I can get out of there. So it's very windy road that the 49ers and Ayuk have been on. And as of right now, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any end in sight. At some point, though, you got to think he's probably going to the Commanders. The Bills won't honor O.J. Simpson amongst the team's legends at the new stadium. Kind of makes sense, honestly, because of the whole situation. It sucks that, and this is just a general statement, it sucks in general that we aren't able to separate football from the person. But at the same time, what O.J. Simpson did was absolutely horrible and beyond evil, so kind of did it to himself, and there's a reason he probably shouldn't have his name up there. I mean, it doesn't take away from the stats and everything that he did for the team, but at the same time, dude did some evil shit. So I'm not defending him at all by having his name up there. It just sucks that you can just be so great and decide to make a horrible and very wrong decision and ruin your whole career. I mean, generally, he could have just gone about his way, did everything, and he would have been a Bills legend. They would have brought him back all the time, would have done all these things, but instead, you want to talk about insane situations, the whole O.J. Simpson thing. It's just, and I'll admit this is a complete side note, it's kind of crazy how he can basically do these things. Everyone can kind of agree, like, yeah, we're pretty confident it did it and everything, but there's no legal action for it. I mean, to this day, it's still one of those, like, okay, just think about this. Like, it's crazy how everyone just basically, like, unanimously damn near agrees that, like, oh yeah, he kind of did, he probably did it. But at the same time, it's like, technically, there's no proof. Insane, just wild, absolutely wild. The last two things I want to talk about, the Terry and Arnold thing, to continue on with it. Like I said, the Lions ended up releasing him. The team did not give a reason, but the announcement came the same day that a Florida judge set Arnold's bail at $1 million. And also, you telling you that the bail is $1 million kind of tells you, like, yeah, he probably might have actually done some shit. The judge did not require Arnold to wear an ankle monitor because it would have prevented him from taking the field for games of training. The judge also said that Arnold already has a paparazzi monitor, referring to the photographers who have been watching his movements. If he shows up at a beach in Tahiti, he'll be on social media. I just want to see if there's a judge that order Arnold to remain in his home in Tallahassee, except for when he's playing, training, and traveling with the Lions. He also said Arnold cannot have any contact with other people tied to the case and must surrender his passport within 48 hours. The fact that they released him now, I'm curious to see if another team will sign him. Because at a certain point, if you're super talented, talent can take you really, really far, and teams will be tempted to sign a guy for stuff. Oh man, I don't know about this one. If I had to guess, you got to think there's a chance, but I don't know. And then the final thing I want to talk about, really, really sad news for Chris Johnson, CJ2K. He got diagnosed with ALS, which is just absolutely awful. So that's just something I want to bring up. He spent 10 seasons in the league. Last played in 2017 for the Arizona Cardinals. He just announced recently that he's diagnosed. I don't know why. He just announced within. I want to say that he was within the last couple days. He basically announced that he was diagnosed with it, and it's been in his. Basically, it's been with him since last year. And for those of you who don't know, it's a fatal nervous system disease that basically, I guess the best way to describe it, just takes away your life, damn near. Because the guy from the Saints, Gleason, he's another one who's dealt with this. There's the baseball writer, I think Sarah Lang, who also deal with it. It's just crazy to see because, like, you see these dudes who are like, bigger than life people who are like pro athletes, popular people, and all that, and then it's just like it's a humanizing thing, basically. It's just insane to think about that, man. So this dude who I used to watch all the time and was really, really fun to play football at, he's just like, I mean, like I said, I mean, obviously I know he's just like everyone else, let's be real, but it's one of those situations like, man, he can be just like us too, and this disease really, really sucks, man. You basically just lose the ability over time to do anything, and I think it's to the point where he's already, I think he has to use his eyes to type, which is just, like, I forget what the technology is called, but it's like the keyboard, and you have to use your eyes because you can't really talk anymore. And it's just insane because there's a video of him last year getting guys' numbers at the people going to the NFL draft. He's getting their numbers, talking to them, trying to basically spread game as much as he could. Just sad, man. And like I said, it's just saying that literally in over a year, he's already lost his ability to speak completely because of ALS. It's sad, man. And now he's just spreading a story, obviously, so hopefully people get diagnosed and everything. If you haven't seen that video, I recommend seeing it. It is. You want to? Humbling probably isn't the right word, but just in general, it's one of those things you look at and it's just like, wow. It kind of just, I guess, like a quick reminder, like, hey, life can happen to you, and it can be. So with that being said, I guess we should go back to a little bit more positive stuff, because, yeah, like I said, that just sucks. Sucks to hear, man. Sucks to see. So let's head over to some breakdowns. So we'll start off with the Jets. I'll admit, for the Jets and Dolphins, these are two teams. Don't have a whole lot of bets for these guys. I have a little bit more for the Dolphins than I do for the Jets. And I'll get into my reason for that with the Jets here in a minute, but yeah, let's go over some new coaching hires. They still got Aaron Glenn there. Frank Wright, the new offensive coordinator, I believe. Because they had to have it's one of those staff situations where this, at least, I don't know if this is exactly how it went, but this is basically how I've described it is, I'm going to save my job by firing all of you guys. So he had to to be fair, their season was so bad, they probably had to switch over people anyway. So they brought in Frank Price, the new offensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator, they brought in Brian Duker. And they brought in Chris Banjo as the new special teams coordinator. However, though, Aaron Glenn, I can't remember if he's going to call the defense or not. I think he might be sharing it / giving it up. But overall, I'm pretty sure that he might still be calling it, but either way, we forgot to talk about the record, I guess. Not a good season for the Jets last year. So in 2025, this Jets team managed to only win 3 games. They went 3-14. And not only did they go 3-14, they didn't. The most shocking part, I think, of the whole year last year, they didn't get a turnover. And by turnover, I mean interception. They didn't get a single interception all season long, which is just absolutely baffling how you managed to go all season, not get one turnover, interception. I should keep it an interception. They weren't able just to fall into an interception or have one lucky bounce just happened to bounce their way. That's just insane. So that's what makes me think that, I'll admit, I'm a little bit curious to see if Aaron Glenn makes it through this season. Because, they brought him in to be a defensive guru, and the defense didn't look the best. And as for the team in general, they did have some retooling. If you remember, they got rid of Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams in the middle of the season. So Adonai Mitchell was a guy that that brought in to help with the I guess just the team in general. They have a lot of fixes they need to make. They added Joseph Osai, David Onyemata, not Kene Nwagu, Max Mitchell. They also signed Younghoe Koo to a 3-year deal. I'm curious to see if that kicking's one of those things where they did sign him to a deal, but if he doesn't start doing well for them, they probably will just end up moving on from him. Overall, though, nothing like too crazy. Draft-wise, they brought in Omar Cooper Jr. Like I said, they brought in Adonai Mitchell last year. They also drafted Kenyon Sadiq, drafted Caleb Klubnik. Sadiq and Omar Cooper were 2 big additions. They also brought in David Bailey, who was one of their top picks. He's going to be potentially a stud for them. So this is a team where they're starting to fill some holes in everything. But overall, they have a pretty good team. They signed Breece Hall to a deal. So that wasn't a guy they ended up losing, but there was a couple guys they lost. They did end up, David Onyemata and Joseph Osai ended up leaving. I thought they were going to be able to keep them. They weren't. But overall, they didn't lose like any big names other than like Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, who were guys they ended up trading away. A lot of people they got rid of, I don't want to say were like bad players or anything that made the NFL, but they were players who's like, yeah, we could probably survive without them. Let's get a little younger at that position. Let's try to spice something up. Either way, they brought in Geno Smith. I guess that was a guy I totally forgot to mention. Geno Smith is now the quarterback for the Jets, kind of having a little full circle moment in the middle to end of his career where he goes back to the Jets after starting his career with the Jets. But it's going to be under Frank Wright, so I don't know how I feel about that offense. I'm a little giving it a little side eye, but maybe OC Frank Wright isn't too bad as head coach Frank Wright. But then we go on their schedule. I don't believe they have any primetime games. All their games are they have one 4 o'clock game as of right now. The rest of their games are at 1 o'clock sharp, and that's Eastern Standard Time. You got the Tennessee Titans. They're away for them week 1, then they're home for Green Bay, away for the Lions, away for the Bears, home for Cleveland, away for the Patriots, home for the Dolphins, home for the Raiders, away for the Chiefs, home for the Bills, away for the Chargers, away for the Dolphins. They got a week 13 bye, which would be awesome if they were going to be a playoff team, but they probably won't be, let's be real. The Denver Broncos are at home following that. The Jets take on the Denver Broncos at home following that, excuse me. Then they're on the road for the Cardinals, which will probably be potentially a massive game for when it comes to the seeding not seeding, but the draft order. That's going to be a massive game when it comes to that. Then they got home versus New England, home versus the Minnesota Vikings, and then they're away for the Bills to end their season. But overall, my expectation for the Jets this upcoming season, I don't think they're going to be too great. I hate to say it. I think they'll be, if anything, they'll be okay. And that's like the best case scenario. Let's look at their over-under real quick. Because personally, I think I have them on the similar level to the Cardinals, where 4 wins going to be a max, and I don't even know if they get to 4, personally. I think it's going to be a kind of rough season for them, I guess. So their over-under win total is actually at 5.5, so they have them winning 6 games. Hold on, let me look back. Maybe I was a bit too egregious. So Titans, maybe there's 1. I might take that under, honestly. Dolphins, they can maybe get them. There's 2. Maybe they win 1 game against either the Patriots or the Bills. There's 3. Yeah, I think maybe I don't know if I'm missing something, but the books basically have them favored to go win 6 games. And while I do think they are going to be better and they are definitely going to be improved, maybe I just don't trust the leadership enough. I'll admit, I'm not the biggest fan of Aaron Glenn. And it's nothing against the guy at all. It's just when it comes to him being a coach, I just didn't like the way he was running things last year. And then towards the end of the season, you could just tell he was kind of getting worn down a little bit. Some of his answers were like, hey, if you're winning, those answers are kind of funny and cool. But when you're losing, kind of look like an asshole with those answers. But I'm sure his last season was just as frustrating for him as it was for a lot of other Jets fans. But like I said, 6 wins in this schedule. I mean, Titans 1, maybe, yes. We'll give 1 to them, Dolphins 2. Maybe they even Dolphins 3. Maybe Raiders at 4. And then you got the Cardinals at 5. And then they're saying they're going to win 1 more besides that. I mean, maybe. Like I said, I'm just overrating I just also think they're trying to, like, I don't want to say they're tanking, but they definitely want to draft a little bit high. I think they have 3 first-round picks next year. And they are definitely going to want to draft a quarterback for next year. So that's very clear. So this is a situation where I think the under 5.5 is plus money on this book is plus 100. I think this is going to be something that I take. Now, I won't be shocked. I take that back. I might be a little shocked they win 6 or 7 games, but I just think this is a team who's going to be a lot better next year. Especially if they're able to draft the right guy at quarterback and maybe he's able to sit for a couple games and then start, or if he's good enough to start right away, he's able to do something for him. I just feel like maybe, like next year, for example, we'll just use Arch Manning. I'm not saying they're getting Arch Manning, but say next year they have a chance to draft Arch Manning. I feel like there's a good chance to get rid of Aaron Glenn. Maybe even get rid of the GM. Probably not, but they'll at least get rid of Aaron Glenn. Bring in probably a new coach. So that way he can start his timeline with the new quarterback timeline, and they'll probably try to bring in a hot name off the market. That's kind of my prediction for this team. So the fact that I saw 6 wins was kind of like, I thought they were going to be like 4, maybe 5, I'll admit. Maybe 5. But like I said, there's early season projections. Maybe I'm just overvaluing Aaron Glenn's impact on the team, and maybe the players are. Maybe they have enough good players that they're talented enough to win a few more games than I think. Like I said, that really makes me a little bit nervous, though. Breece Hall over 900 rushing yards. Tempting. That was one of the few ones I was tempted to take. But that offense was so beyond putrid last year. I just don't know. Garrett Wilson to have 990 or 1,000 receiving yards, basically. I'm pretty sure he had, like, I want to say, like, he was hurt a lot of the year, but I'm pretty sure that he had, like, 300 receiving yards and was, like, their leading receiver. And nobody, and he only played, like, half the games that season last year. It was kind of nasty. Omar Cooper Jr. to have over 550 receiving yards is minus 110. I'm curious to see what the Geno Smith passing is. This book doesn't have it, so let me open up another real quick. Actually, I straight up just don't even think they have Geno Smith's number up now that I'm looking. So, because I was about to say, I'm like, I feel like I thought I didn't see it. But, so yeah, we're going to leave that be then. For them to win the Super Bowl, you place a $10 wager, you can find yourself winning $2,000. So, needless to say, they probably aren't winning the Super Bowl. They probably aren't winning the conference or the division. So, to make the playoffs, they're plus 690. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs most likely. To miss the playoffs, they're minus 1,000. Like I said, I probably 4 or 5 wins might be probably going to be where I end up having them at. I just don't think I'm going to see them going any farther. They have their over-under division win total set at 1.5, and it's minus 180. So, let's see. So, I think they beat the Dolphins, most likely, at least one. Let's see. So, Dolphins once. Maybe Bills. Maybe 1.5 is a little too low for me. Because they could, I don't want to say luck themselves into win, but they could easily end of the season against the Bills. That game doesn't matter. They find themselves winning it, screwing themselves out of a pick. Doesn't that sound like something the Jets would do? But overall, and then the final thing, we'll talk about the first 5 games of the season, their record after 5 games. So let's read that stretch of games real quick. So you got Titans, Packers, Lions, Bears, Browns. 1 win is plus 190, 2 wins is plus 170. That's basically what it comes down to. You think it's going to be 1 or 2? My prediction? I honestly think they're probably going to... If I had to guess, 2 is... obviously I think for sure 2 is going to be the max, but I kind of think they might either... They're either going to win that game against Tennessee and then lose the game against Cleveland or vice versa. So my inkling, I guess, is to take them to win 1 game in first 5. But I don't think I'm going to bet this, to be honest. That's just a future that I was kind of looking at, like I said, not totally buying in on, but I just don't know. I don't know what to expect from Geno in this offense. He was pretty bad with horrible offensive line play last year. Is the Jets' offensive line that much improved that I think it should be able to help? I don't know. Are the Jets going to have all their most of their wide receivers stay healthy all season? I don't know. Losing Garrett Wilson really sucked for them. Breece Hall. If I'm going to take any player props, maybe Breece Hall's rushing yards. But now that he got signed his contract, he's not playing for a contract anymore. I'm not saying he's just going to all of a sudden suck and not be motivated, but there's a little bit of an edge you lose there a little bit. So overall, I guess for the Jets, this isn't going to be the longest breakdown. I'm shocker. I only have like 2 futures or 3 I'm taking for the Jets. But overall, I think this is going to be a team that wins at most 5 games. I really don't even think it's going to get there. I think it'll probably be more around like the 4-ish range. A team that's building in the next year. I wonder if Aaron Glenn's going to make it through the whole season. Going into this season, I feel like he's not going to, but I could be totally wrong by that, and he ends up making it. We'll just have to see. So overall, I got 3 futures. Like I said, we'll take the under 5.5 wins. I think it'll be about 4 to 5 wins. So the hook is probably going to come in super clutch for us, if I had to guess. And I wouldn't be shocked if it comes down to like there may be like 4 in. I was going to say 4 and 13, but say they're like 4 and 12. 5, maybe say even 5 and 12. You go in the last game of the year. If the Bills don't need it, that game could get a little dicey. But I don't think it's going to come down to that. I like the under 5.5 there. For them to win 1 game in the first 5 is plus 190. That is something that I am tempted to take, so I'll probably end up just hopping on it because we don't have a lot of futures with this team. If not 1, it's going to be 2. So it's just one of those things where it's like technically you could place a bet on the 190 and the 170, and you will at least get some money back. I would honestly recommend that if you really are interested in betting on them to win their first 5 games. I'd probably just bet 1, maybe head with 2, and then if they win 0, you can come back to me and say it's my fault. And then the last one we'll take is Breece Hall to have over, I think it was 900 rushing yards, which was minus 110. That's the only player prop I'd consider taking on this team. Don't know if I'm fully going to pull the trigger on it, so yeah. The only one I'm for sure taking is the under 5.5 for the win total, and then I'm tempted to do the little head situation with the 1 and 2 wins for the first 5 games. So now let's talk about the Miami Dolphins, who they got a lot of changes. So they brought in Jeff Hafley, who was the former defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. Their GM is brand new too, brought him in from the Packers. Their offensive coordinator is Bobby Slovic, who was originally with the Texans, if you remember. He was one of the hotter names for a head coaching job, decided to go back and be the OC for the Texans. Did not go great at all, so he's kind of back in the mix. You got Sean Duggan for the defensive coordinator. Special teams coordinator, you got Chris DePore and Kevin Patullo. I don't know why I said Patullo. Kevin Patullo is now going to be the new passing game coordinator after taking his talents away from Philly, who basically ran that dude out of town, to be honest. To go along with that, some additions they brought in. Caden Proctor and Chris Johnson were 2 of their bigger signees when it comes to the draft. They brought in Aaron Brewer. And then the really big one was the Malik Willis. They signed him to a 3-year deal. They kept Javon Achane around. They got rid of Tyreek Hill, got rid of Darren Waller. Mike McDaniels has left town officially, along with Tua Tagovailoa, who was another big name that ended up leaving them. Jalen Waddle got traded to Denver. Minkah Fitzpatrick traded to the Jets. Bradley Chubb got released. I mean, this was a complete cleaning house of the Dolphins. They're in a whole brand new era. They're going to be trying out some new stuff. With the new team, new guys, Devon Achane is pretty much the only guy who was there from any of the last 5 to 6 years. And their goal is, it sounds like, to pretty much build around him and keep this offense rolling. So, looking at their schedule for this upcoming season, they're at the Raiders for the first game, at San Francisco, home for the Chiefs, at Minnesota, home for the Bengals, week 6 bye. That's tough. The Jets, week 7, they're away for them, and they're home for the Patriots in Detroit. Then they travel to Indianapolis week 10. Week 11, they're on the road still to play Buffalo. Week 12, they come back home for the Jets. 13, it's away for the Broncos. Week 14 is home versus the Bears. Week 15, it's away at the Packers. Week 16, you go home for the Chargers. 17, home for the Bills. And then you finish off the year with an away game at New England. So I'll admit, this is a team I actually expect to be kind of good. I think they're going to be better than the Jets. Now, are they going to be a playoff team? I don't want to go that far, but I definitely think this Dolphins team is going to have to step up from what they were last year. And I'll admit, this one total goes the other way, where their over-under is 4.5, and I genuinely, it's like, look at their schedule, it's like, I think I can find 5 wins in there. Because I think there might be a surprise win in there. I think they're at least going to beat the Jets once, maybe even twice. At least for sure once, so there's 1 win. They are capable of beating the Raiders, there's 2. They can beat the Vikings, will they? I don't know. Bengals are capable of, but I don't know if they will, so we'll keep it at 2 wins for right now. Okay, I mean their schedule is definitely a little bit tougher, but I lean the over 4.5. I just think they're going to be a team, especially Malik Willis. It's kind of as good as I think he might be. I think there's a chance this team could kind of be a little sneaky and win 5 to 6 games. I think it's basically an inverse of the Jets, where I think the Jets at max can win, or at I guess it's actually kind of similar. I think they should win. Jets, I think, will win about 5 to 6. Sorry, 4 to 5. I think the Dolphins win about 5 to 6. It's kind of because I just feel like there's 1 or 2 games will surprise us. Like they are Buffalo coming to Miami week 17. That's really late in the year. It's going to be a little hot. That could definitely affect them. There's just some of these situations where they could find themselves in a pretty decent spot. So I lean kind of taking the over of 4.5, but I'm not like rushing to the book to bet it. But if I had to lean, I'm definitely leaning the over, and that might be one I'm probably going to end up taking it, but as of right now, it is on the cutting room like floor basically. As for player futures, Malik Willis, on this is interesting. On one book, they have his over under set at 2,950 passing yards, and then I go to this other book, and I'm pretty sure it's 2,800. So that just goes to show you, by the way, I would always recommend this. I think I have like 5 sports books I use in total, which is a bit excessive. I know it's for sure at least. I think it's just 4. 5 might be a lot. But I definitely recommend at least having 2 because you can definitely find odds better on one book than the other. And I think for like main ones, I use Fanatics, DraftKings, BetMGM, and FanDuel. No sponsored, by the way. But between those 4, I like being able to bounce around them, being like, okay, yeah, for example, in this book, 2,800 for Malik Willis's passing yards, which I do kind of like. I think he's actually going to be pretty decent for them. And not only that, we get basically like a whole game's worth of passing yards because it's 2,800 and a half versus 2,950. I mean, pretty good deal. That averages out to be 164 a game. So that literally the other book literally adds on basically close to a game's worth of passing yards on average. So, like I said, basically for Malik Willis to average 170 passing yards per game, that's not asking for a lot. And don't get me wrong, I understand the Dolphins don't have the most talent in the world, but I think they're going to be able to put together some offense defensively with Jeff Hafley there. The defense is going to be a little bit better than I think a lot of people expect. This is going to be a sneaky good team. Now, they aren't going to blow anybody away, but 2,800 just feels, maybe I'm just reading, it just feels a tad low. Because if you look at some of the other guys who are like, around him, you got Tyler Shuck, 3,600, 3,200 for Jordan Love, 3,100 Jalen Hurts. Fernando Mendoza's at 2,350, and that's only because I think there's kind of built in that he might not start the first 4 games. If Mendoza starts the first, I'll admit, this is something I'll just give out on the show now, if you are watching this far in. If you think Mendoza's going to start the season, I would definitely bet this number because I feel like this number is a little bit too low, and it's banked in that he's going to miss about 4 games, so I would jump on it if you could. But overall, I mean, on this list, Malik Willis is by far the lowest, and I think that's simply partially because the books also kind of don't know what to expect from him. Will he make it through a full season health-wise? What do we think he'll be able to do passing yards-wise? And you look at his passing touchdowns, it's over 14 and a half. 13 and a half on this book. Tempting. I'll admit that is kind of tempting. That's the part I am going to stay away because I think there's a chance that maybe rushing touchdown-wise, he might rush a couple in that might take away from the passing. So I'm not going to for sure take the passing touchdown wise, but I do like the passing yards. Devon Achane, if I could have like a season-long receptions over, I might take that. I think he's going to catch a decent amount of passes. I don't know what to do for the run game. They signed their center to a deal who is one of the best centers in football, so the run game I think will be decent, but I don't think it'll be good enough for me to want to bet on Devon Achane's rushing over. So if anything, I might just look at some passing stuff for him because I think he might catch a decent amount of dump-offs and everything. For the Dolphins win the conference, 150 to 1. Winner division, they're plus 4,000. It's going to be between the Bills and the Patriots, which we'll talk about Thursday. But for the Dolphins to make the playoffs, it's plus 1,400. I don't know if they're minus 4,000 missing playoffs. The Jets are minus 1,000, which I'll admit, minus 4,000. I don't think the Dolphins should make the playoffs. That feels a bit aggressive. I feel like, if anything, the Dolphins should be closer to the Jets than that. For the Dolphins division win, the over-under's at -1.5. I think I like that. I think I'm going to take that because I think they might be able to steal a game against the Bills maybe at the end of the season because the Bills notoriously do not play the greatest in Miami, especially when it's like really hot down there. Which, decent amount of time is hot in Miami. And yet again, the Dolphins are a team who notoriously gave the Patriots problems in their games. So basically, I think they realistically could beat every division opponent at least once. So, and I think they for sure will at least beat the Jets once. They might even beat it twice. So I like getting this number at 1.5, especially that's only -125. I kind of really like that number. So that's something I am for sure going to be jumping on. And the record of the first 5 games, to end it out, let's go over their schedule again just to give the exact idea. So we got, okay, I think I've stalled long enough to pull it up. The Raiders, and they get a bye after week 5. So it's basically the 5-week flurry bye, and then they play the rest of the season out. Raiders, San Fran, Kansas City, Minnesota, Bengals. Them to have 1 win is +150. I think I do like that. +225 for 2 wins. I mean, maybe they beat one of the Raiders or 49ers, Minnesota, Bengals, Kansas City, but I really think I like the Dolphins to only have 1. There's a chance they might have 0. 0 is +350, but I genuinely think they probably beat the Raiders week 1. But, like I said, overall, I think the Dolphins are going to probably at least win 1 game in the first. I think they'll at least be 1-4 going into week 6. Potentially might be able to get a second game. They're playing some pretty tough teams, so I'm not too sure about that. But I think one. I don't want to say yet again. Don't want to use the word guaranteed because that's a horrible word to use when giving out futures and talking about bets. But I really like 1 win. So my official how it ended for the Dolphins. I think they're gonna be a good team. Maybe not the greatest team this season. I think they're gonna be around 5 to 6 wins. I think they're gonna be competitive in majority of their games. Like I won't be shocked at all if they say they only win 3 or 4 games, but they're competitive in 14 of the 18. I think there's going to be a really good chance of that. It's all going to come down to Malik Willis, who I think is going to be pretty good for them. How great is he going to be? I'm not 100% too sure, but he was drafted pretty high by the Titans forever ago for a reason. He does have all the talent and everything. Maybe he's starting to slowly click and figure out for him. And they're bringing in guys who he's been comfortable with, as in head coaching-wise and GM-wise. I don't think it's going to end up being a bad system for him at all. Looks pretty promising. So officially, my Dolphins futures, I'm going to take over 4.5 wins +100. Malik Willis to have over 2,800 passing yards. Dolphins to have over 1.5 division wins -125. And then the Dolphins to win 1 game in the first 5 weeks is, I think, +170. Forgot to write that down. And then for the Jets to end it, since we're at the end of the episode, under 5.5 win total for them. To win 1 or 2 games in the first 5 weeks. 1 game is +190. I really like 1 game if you want to hedge it. They aren't going to win more than 2, but I'm personally taking 1. And then I might take Breece Hall over 900 rushing yards. I don't know about that one. That is one I'm kind of looking at I might just leave that off because player props really killed us last year, and I'm really trying to dial it in on the player props, especially because of injuries and everything. If I had more money, I'd just be a hater and take so many dudes unders and just hope. And I don't want to say just hope for injuries, but just kind of expected hey, a couple of these guys are going to get injured and that's completely going to ruin their under and it's going to completely help their under and ruin the over. Make it a hit, but yeah. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for the support. Really do appreciate it. I'm not full in hater mode yet, so we aren't there just yet, but after last year, it's tempting. I'll be back in this feed on Thursday. We'll go over the Bills and the Patriots, break down their teams heading into next season, and it's been fun, man. I'm already excited this year. I think we've kept the futures under. So far, I like what we're doing. We're going to keep it under wraps. We're basically finding at most 5, maybe 6 for some teams, but basically it's around 4 to 5 range of futures I like for each team, which is basically the goal. Obviously, there's going to be some teams I have a little bit more player prop futures of and futures in general of than other teams, but the goal is at least hopefully wrap 3 to 4 on every team. And I personally might end up only betting 1 to 2, but there are 4 bets that I will be basically putting the record on the line with because I like them all. It's just, hey, at a certain point, I can't bet, 32 times 4? I can't just be betting 128 futures. Or can I? Thank you all for watching. I'll be back in this feed on Thursday.